me have some fun.
Round 1. Fight.
When it comes to 2D traditional fighting games, Street Fighter is probably my favorite fighting game franchise. However, in 2016, Street Fighter V came out, and the way it was rolled out was absolutely laughable. And even though they did update it over time and it did get better, I haven't actually played it for a while, so I feel like I haven't really played Street Fighter in a while. That being said, with Street Fighter 6, I was beyond excited, and it seems to be an apology for Street Fighter V. And after playing it, I'm happy to report that Street Fighter 6 is everything I want out of a Street Fighter game and everything I want out of a fighting game and more. This is nothing short of amazing, but let's talk about it. Hi guys, DPX here reviewing today Street Fighter 6. Now before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will beat the shit out of you.
Here comes a new challenger.
Gotta do this. Come on.
Time to play.
Round 1. Fight.
Street Fighter 6, needless to say, has a lot of good to it. First off, I just want to, of course, talk about the gameplay. The gameplay in Street Fighter 6 feels so smooth and so tight, and it just feels great. There's so many combos you can pull off, just like with every game, but all of them feel amazing and they're all flashy. The parrying system is really cool, and the focus attacks are all colorful. I just think that's so cool. I also really like how this game is very welcoming to new players. I'm a huge Street Fighter fan, but I haven't really replayed 4 as much as I have 2 and 3, and I already told you about 5, but playing 6, I feel right at home. Right off the bat, the game offers 3 different types of controls. There is the modern controls, classic controls, and dynamic controls. Dynamic controls are basically auto combos that I don't really recommend you use them. I only really see them offered during like normal versus battles. But then there's modern and classic controls. Classic is for longtime players and allows you to do all the special moves by doing inputs and all that, just like the older games, while modern allows you to just press a button and do a special move that you would have to otherwise do a whole input command for. A lot of people were somewhat iffy on this, especially since the game defaults to modern controls when it really should default to classic, but I love how welcoming it is, and I expected to stick with classic controls, but honestly, I see myself switching a lot, and some characters I actually play with modern, and some characters I play with classic. There are also some little things that the game does that I like. On the character select screen, it says how easy the character is to use. Some characters are easy to learn, hard to learn, and some are in the middle, which I just feel like it's so cool that the game actually tells you this. And I can't really think of many other fighting games that do this. Onto the roster, this might be one of my favorite Street Fighter rosters ever, and it's only going to improve. One annoyance with the previous Street Fighter rosters I had was you have the roster for Street Fighter 2, and it got improved upon with Super Street Fighter 2 and Super Turbo and all that, and then came Street Fighter 3. And that was supposed to be a new generation for Street Fighter, kind of like how this is supposed to be, but removed every single character except for Ryu and Ken, and even then, they were almost removed too. And since that led Street Fighter 3 to not sell as well, Street Fighter 4 and 5 were mostly characters from Street Fighter 2, with a few characters from 3 thrown in there. But now, with Street Fighter 6 supposed to be ushering in a new generation of Street Fighter, it did it in the right way. You have a slew of newcomers, and while they might be taking center stage, the game does bring back a lot of iconic characters from the franchise and updates their designs, which I'll get into the designs of the characters later, and kind of gives them some story, making them like more mature and like more skilled than the newer characters, which I think is just a nice touch. And let me tell you, I've tried every single character and spent a bit of time with them, and I don't think there's a single character that isn't fun playing. Obviously, some characters are more fun than others, and then there are some characters that are fucking brain dead, but there is not one character that I didn't like playing. As for my mains, Normally in Street Fighter, I tend to gravitate towards Ken, Cammy, and Vega, but, you know, Vega didn't make it here. So I did gravitate towards Ken and Cammy, and while, yeah, I still play them in this game, JP is a lot of fun and is very unique. But even then, I find myself playing other characters I don't main, like Jamie, Manon, Marisa, Jury, and especially DJ, who almost seems like a brand new character and looks like completely unrecognizable. And speaking of looking, I love the designs, the new designs of each character. I feel it really cements the new generation of Street Fighter, as everyone looks different and cool. I think it's everyone's new design that I really dig. Like, I don't think one of them, like, I don't even know if there's one that I don't dig. There are also many modes and features, making Street Fighter 6 definitely the most feature-rich game in the franchise. I'll get to Battle Hub and World Tour in a bit, but first, there's the Fighting Ground. Fighting Ground is the main fighting mode where you can do normal matches, but also you can do team matches, which I think is really cool, along with extreme matches, which also seems equivalent to maybe like playing with items in Smash. Then there is practice, where you can of course train, but then there is arcade mode, and this game definitely has one of, if not the best arcade mode in any Street Fighter game. There is a lot of story and to many characters that you find out more about when you play arcade mode. I really like Ken's arcade mode because of his story of being a framed war criminal is quite shocking, and I don't know how we originally thought that it was Ken going through a midlife crisis. I feel like there's a pretty big gap between Ken getting a divorce from his wife and becoming homeless to Ken becoming a war criminal and becoming homeless because he's on the run. I'm getting sidetracked. Not to mention, every time you clear arcade mode, you unlock a new slew of artwork. You unlock a piece of artwork for each character after clearing arcade mode on each difficulty, which is already really cool, but there is even more artwork you unlock that can range from concept art for this game to art spanning across the entire franchise that even has characters in there that aren't playable in this game, which, I mean, it makes me want to have those characters playable in this game, but either way, it's so cool. I've legit spent a lot of time just going through each piece of artwork, and it's just a nice touch. Now for the other modes, there is Battle Hub. Battle Hub is basically the online mode, but a giant lobby with so much detail all over, and the fact that you match into other players by going to an arcade cabinet in order to start a match is so cool. Another really cool thing that you can do in Battle Hub and in World Tour, which, again, I'll get to that, are other arcade cabinets around that have some of Capcom's older arcade games, like Street Fighter 2, Final Fight, Sun, and more, are straight up playable through the arcade cabinets all around Battle Hub and World Tour. And when I say they're playable, I don't just mean you can play a little demo, I mean like you can actually play Final Fight from start to finish within just a little arcade cabinet lying around in this game. That is amazing. Does any other game have anything else like this? I can't think of any. Can you guys let me know if there is? And while I am talking about Battle Hub, that means I'm talking about the online. And as I'm talking about the online, I feel inclined to mention the netcode, in which the netcode is fantastic. I'll get some lag and stutter here and there. That's it. Online play is 97% of the time very smooth, even when you're playing against people from a different part of the world. Like, there are different servers you can go in, a North American server, a South American server, an Asian server, and a European server. Any one I go in, the connection is very smooth. Now, finally, I'm at the World Tour. World Tour is the single-player kind of story mode in Street Fighter 6, and it's semi-open world, and while I do have my little issues with it that I'll get to later, it's fucking awesome. First of all, you get to create your own character, which the character creator has so many options and features to the point where the game becomes cursed, but the character creator alone shows just how many features there are in Street Fighter 6. But about World Tour, there's a story, and it's interesting and all, but where I find the most fun was when you just go around and just fighting many NPCs. And I really do mean that you can beat the shit out of basically any NPC you see. It can be a thug on the street trying to start a fight. It can be like just some normal dude who's like, you know, just sparring, just training or whatever. Or it can be a pizza salesman. And while it isn't really open world, as it's simply just not as open as I would like to call an open world game, it certainly feels very open at times. I hope that made sense. I've heard people say that they would buy World Tour if it was its own game for $60, and while I don't quite agree, I would buy it if it was $40, but regardless, the fact that the conversation of this mode in a game, even hypothetically, being big enough to be a separate game, speaks volumes to just how much fun World Tour is. Some other stuff worth mentioning, I'm going to go into the character themes a little bit later, but as for the other music, like the menu music and the main theme, bangers. The main theme in particular, Not on the Sidelines, I no joke listen to that song when I'm working out. I think visually, Street Fighter 6 looks absolutely amazing and one of the best looking fighting games, and I also really love the visual style. I've heard it getting compared to Fortnite a lot, and I think you're crazy if you really think that, because Street Fighter 6 looks way more realistic and also just a lot more colorful and flashy. And also, there's just a lot of detail to this game, like so much. I mentioned some smaller details earlier, but other smaller things, like every time you do a normal versus battle, you get an intro with the two characters entering the battle together, like before their own intros. It looks like they're just entering a match, giving it a big fight feel every time. It's just so cool. Speaking of a big fight feel, there's even commentary in this game, which I thought would be annoying and distracting, but it adds a lot of charm to the game, and it's optional. I don't usually play with it on, but every now and then I'll do a few matches and just have it on, and I just think it's cool that that's in the game. Additionally, every character is super detailed with their facial animations. Some of the male characters have extra detail on their facial hair, and some of the female characters have extra detail on their curves. Look, I tried my best to go this video without mentioning that, but like, they knew what they were doing. There are so many extra cool details that there is no way I've mentioned all of them. Overall, Street Fighter 6, like I said at the beginning of the video, is just nothing short of amazing.
Ready? Then show me. My pleasure.
Round one. Fight.
Moving on to the mixed stuff in Street Fighter 6, this is stuff that I'm not leaning towards the good, I'm not leaning towards the bad. They can go in the middle because I can go either way on them, or it could be something surrounding the game. Like this, the first thing I want to mention is that when you install the game, World Tour and Fighting Ground install separately, which is pretty annoying because that means you install the game, but World Tour and Fighting Ground haven't installed yet. So all you can really do is go to Battle Hub, and even then, you can't really play any matches until the rest of the game installs. I put this under mixed because, like I said, it's a problem surrounding the game and not a problem within the game itself. Another mixed thing I have is the music. Now, I actually definitely grew to like a lot of the music, but they just don't have the same kick and the same just slapping. Why did I add that? I didn't write that. I just improvised a little bit. They don't have the same kick as the Street Fighter characters' themes that we all associate each character with. I will admit, Ryu, Ken, Zangief, Blanca, and Juri's themes in particular have grown on me, and in the case of newcomers, Kimberly, Marisa, and Luke, and I know Luke isn't really a newcomer, but kind of feels like one, I really dig those themes a lot. It's just for the returning characters, I kind of just prefer their old themes. That's why it's under mixed though, because a lot of the themes do go very hard, but nothing will ever top the iconic themes of Ryu, Ken, Guile, Chun-Li, you know, all of them, you know what I mean? But that's just me. Now, as for the bad, there are some small issues that really don't ruin the game for me, but when they happen, they do bother me a little bit. First off, while I love the roster, and this doesn't hurt it that much, I would have liked maybe one character from 3 could be anyone, or if not 3, maybe some representation from Alpha or even 5 would have been cool. I know we got Luke, but he was added so late into Street Fighter V, like the last character. He really does feel like a newcomer. And I know they're adding Rashid as DLC, but like a character like him on the main roster would have been pretty cool, I feel. It's a minor complaint, as I really do love the roster, but it would have been even better if we had more characters from throughout Street Fighter's long history. Hell, maybe even bring in like a character from the first Street Fighter game. You know, that game fucking sucks dick, but, you know, maybe bring in like an obscure character from that game. That would have been interesting, but well, that's just a hypothetical at this point. Lastly, while I really did enjoy my time with World Tour, there are some smaller issues that bothered me. I mentioned this earlier, but there are moments during the game where certain sections are blocked off. Wait, I don't think I mentioned that actually. I said it wasn't as open. This is the reason why it's in some areas it's not as open. There are sections that are blocked off, and that's because of the police, and it's honestly, it gets annoying sometimes. There eventually is a subway you can take, but you need to wait for the subway to arrive for 3 actual minutes, like in real time, where a bunch of NPCs swarm you and you gotta fight them. And on the one hand, it helps pass the time, but on the other hand, sometimes you just want to get from point A to point B, and it's just annoying having these enemies swarm you. You do unlock a fast travel feature, which is cool, but still, it's just still annoying. Also, the AI gets very spammy, to the point where it's really fucking annoying to fight against. But honestly, that's about it, and even then, they don't really hurt the game that much for me.
Here's to a fair fight.
Don't expect me to be a pushover.
Round 1. Fight.
Many people are saying that Street Fighter 6 is going to be the start of a new big boom period for fighting games. And honestly, after playing it, fuck yes, it will be. When it comes to traditional fighting games, and as a huge fighting game fan, believe me when I say that Street Fighter 6 might actually be the best fighting game since maybe Third Strike. Now maybe that is a bit of a reach. I feel like I still need more time to think about this, but the point I'm trying to make is that Street Fighter 6 is nothing short of legendary. The roster is really solid, the gameplay is so smooth and welcoming to all players, the game looks amazing, and there's so much detail, it's actually crazy. I didn't even mention how polished this game is, and it looks. I remember hearing from people who played this at Summer Games Fest last year, which was like almost a full year ago. They said that the game looks and feels like it's ready to release, and you can easily tell the extra polish they took for a full year. Needless to say, Street Fighter 6 is possibly a top 5 best fighting game of all time, and while I don't know if it's better than 2 or Third Strike, those are incredibly high bars, so the fact that I considered it speaks volumes. That being said, I give Street Fighter 6 a 10 out of 10. Damn, I feel like I'm devaluing a 10 out of 10 because this is the 3rd game I've given a 10 out of 10 this year, but it really deserves it. What do you guys think of Street Fighter 6? Do you guys like it? Do you guys not like it? Have you played it? Have you not played it? And if you haven't played it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? If you guys don't like fighting games still, I think you guys should play this game. Anyways, anything about the game, let me know. Anyways, be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, or I will beat the shit out of you.